Happy 4th of July, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Guilty Gear Ramblings. Today, I'm going to be talking about Guilty Gear X Advanced Edition for the Game Boy Advanced. Now, I said before that this game is a horrible piece of crap. Honestly, gave the game I was honestly a little bit too hard the game, honestly. But, you know, it's not the worst port of a Game Boy fighting game out there. It honestly isn't. But the game is really, really not good. See, the thing is, it's the controls and the music that kill me the most. I mean, graphics are a thing too, but at least I can see the character sprites, though. They are super tiny, and I know why they did that, but I honestly believe that the sprites should have been bigger. Honestly, it could have made the sprites a bit bigger, because it's super tiny in the game, and it just makes it just look weird. Like everybody, like it looks smaller than Guilty Gear's Petit sprites, and they were meant to be chibi. I don't know how that hell is even possible. And the Wonders one was a smaller system. It looks bigger on there than how the character sprites look on the Advanced Edition, and the Game Boy is a lot bigger to play with. But the sprites and the backgrounds, they're okay for the Game Boy. You know, at least they're, you know, they look somewhat similar. You know, they don't look like two completely different to the point you can't even recognize them no more. So the backgrounds and the sprites are at least okay. I just not a fan how tiny the sprites are, and the sound is like by far like one of the worst things ever. Now there are some songs that are okay for like an NES or a GB kind of sound, but this is the Game Boy Advance, and I know damn well the Game Boy Advance is capable of producing better music for this. You ever heard Dragon Ball Z Boo's Fury or Legacy of Goku or any of those games in those series made like that? Those push the Game Boys to its absolute limit with the soundtrack. That I believe so. Now there's no excuse that Guilty Gear could have at least done as half as that, because they even try with the soundtrack for this version. I don't know what the hell happened. I still don't know what the hell happened, but I know damn well the Game Boy Advance can produce better music than what they introduced in here. The character select theme sounds garbage. Some of the songs sound absolutely abysmal. There are some that sound okay if the Guilty Gear soundtrack was turned into a Game Boy sound. It's okay, but for the Game Boy Advance, honestly, there could have been more done with this. I believe that. So man, like this sounds like if this was Guilty Gear made for the original Game Boy, and considering this game came out what 2003, honestly, this could have been done a lot better with this. But yeah, and there's even the control itself for the game. Now, it's look, this is like a more preferable thing for me personally. I don't like using shoulder buttons as, you know, extra means for attacking, especially like on only a 4-button fighter. And you know, the Game Boy has the buttons to do that. You get the L and R buttons, you get the A and B buttons. Okay, you got your ways of attacking. It's the problem is A, some of the inputs don't really come out correctly, and B, you know, some of the buttons that are required for you to use the L and R buttons for attacks just don't work half the time. And I will admit I'm not very good at fighting games, but I can tell when a fighting game is supposed to work and when it's not. And hell, like I did this on emulator, so I should have a problem. Like if I was playing a standard Game Boy, yeah, I can totally understand. L and R buttons on Game Boys don't have problems. They stick sometimes. But on an emulator where all the buttons are specially configured, when I can just change the configuration anytime I want, yeah, that's a problem. I even attempted to do this when changing the L and R buttons. I had a controller with 4 face buttons, so I decided to change the L and R configuration over to those extra 2 buttons, you know, the X and Y buttons instead of the A and B buttons. It still had the same problem, so I don't know if it's just a game problem or the button problem, but considering I changed the buttons to match the X and Y buttons instead of L and R, it's still a problem. But yeah. The game is not the worst thing, but you know, it's okay. I don't know why anyone would even, you know, play it in the current age. I mean, when you can just get access to Guilty Gear X, no problem. I mean, unless you really want to see how a Game Boy port of a Guilty Gear game seems like, I don't know why. You know, it takes like about a few minutes to unlock pretty much everything in the game, you know, extra stuff. Like, You also get this color customization mode, which is actually pretty cool, which I do like. You know, color customization is actually pretty fun, and you know, you get to screw around with shit. It's pretty cool. Though I didn't still figure out how to get the color customization mode to work. I honestly still don't know how to freaking handle that. I tried to get it to work, but every time I do it, it'll lock me into like the link screen. Like you gotta link up two Game Boys together in order to play. And I hated that because it just takes forever to get out. Then you don't like you can't get out to a traditional sense. You gotta go through a bunch of other stuff to get out of the menu, and it's a pain. It's honestly a pain. Like I feel like my biggest problems is just the sprite size and the freaking the music. And again, I cannot can get the sprites a pass because, you know, I don't know what is capable really with the Game Boy in regards of sprites. Like especially with like a fighting game like Guilty Gear, I have no idea. I never made a fighting game for it, and but I know for a fact that you know things could have been done better, and the music is just bad. But that's just me. But I think that's all I really want to say about Guilty Gear X Advance. There's not much to say, really. There's nothing new about it. There's nothing that'll knock you dead. It's pretty much the game itself on the Game Boy Advance. I do hope, I did kind of wish that more Guilty Gear games got to be more portable, because like we had the Game Boy Advance with X Advance Edition, and we had the DS with Dust Strikers, but we never got a game for like the 3DS or you know. We still lack an original Guilty Gear game for the Switch. I mean, there's XX in the original Guilty Gear on the Switch, but we don't have a brand new Guilty Gear for the Switch. Or a port. You know, I know XR could probably fit on the Switch. I mean, maybe it can, maybe it can't. I don't freaking know, but I feel like it can. But hell if I know, man. I'm not very good at understanding how ports work. I just want to see shit get ported to other things I like to play. But other than that, I am out of here talking about Guilty Gear X Advance. Goodbye, everyone. Peace out. You know, all that jazz.